Hey, how are you? I'm good. How are you?
Yesterday.
Good afternoon. This meeting of the Shreveport Kettle Parish Commission is about to come to order. At this particular time, it is customary that we have an opening with an invocation and a pledge of allegiance. If you care to join us, please stand.
Bow your heads. Heavenly Father, please bless us as we make decisions for the betterment of the Shreveport and surrounding areas. Amen.
Amen. Please join with me and face the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Once again, I'd like to say welcome to the regularly scheduled public meeting of the Shreveport Caddo Parish Metropolitan Planning Commission meeting. For public hearing agenda items, if you wish to make public comments on an application, we have MPC comment slips at the speaker's stand right down front or next to the podium. For future notification purposes, it is very important that you fill out a slip and drop it in the box when you come forward to speak. Please state your full name, your mailing address, zip code before addressing the board. We will call each case on the agenda in order and hear first from the applicant, then those speaking in favor. 10 minutes are allocated for the principal spokesperson and 3 minutes for each additional speaker. We will then hear from those wishing to speak against an application. Again, 10 minutes are allocated for the principal spokesperson and 3 minutes for each additional speaker. One representative of the application can then speak in rebuttal if desired. After hearing comments on each case, the board will then immediately deliberate and vote on that case before moving on to the next case on our agenda. Please note that when the board is deliberating, members of the public are not permitted to make any comments. Any member of the public may request a copy of the board's decision on a particular case by contacting our office at 318-673-6480 after 1 p.m. on tomorrow, or by accessing our website at shreveportcaddompc.com. For consent agenda items and other agenda items not requiring a public hearing, public comments can be made upon request by filling out an MPC comment slip. If comments are requested for a specific agenda item, the chair will offer an opportunity for those comments prior to the commission taking action on that agenda. All of the MPC board's zoning recommendations are submitted either to the City Council or the Caddo Parish Commission for a final decision, depending on the location of the property here in the area that's in question. Please note that it is your responsibility to contact the appropriate governing body about your procedures as related to the matter that you happen to be concerned with. Copies of this document and the phone numbers to contact the governing bodies are available on the table next to the podium and in the entryway where we come into this room. As a courtesy, please remember to turn off all cell phones while the MPC board is in session. The commission values your testimony appreciates your compliances with our guidelines, and we're happy to have you here with us today. At this particular time, board members, we have a little business to take care of as it relates to approval of minutes. It appears that's an error in the printing of our minutes, and I'm going to ask a board member to make a motion to amend the agenda to say September 5, 2021. Can I get someone to do that?
I would like to move that we make a amendment to the agenda.
It's been motioned by Mr. Moss and second by
I'll second that.
Mr. Robinson. All those in favor, please say.
Mr. Chair, before you
Yes,
go
sir.
forward, did I mishear that you all didn't correct it to 2022? I thought I heard the motion was September 5, 2021.
If I said it was in error, please accept my apologies. It is to be amended to say September, no,
October.
September what?
September 7th.
September 7th, 2022. All right, we have a motion
Motion to approve.
and a second by,
Second.
all those in favor, please vote yes. All right. That motion carries. Now, having said that, may I have a motion to approve minutes for September 7th, 2022 as amended?
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Moss,
Second.
second by Mr. Robinson. All those in favor, please vote yes. All right. Thank you very much, board members. At this particular time, we have one item on the consent agenda. Case item number 6, case number 22-15 SC minor subdivision. I believe this is a consent agenda item. Are there any persons present in the audience who are here because of this particular case? It is a consent agenda item. Seeing none, hearing none, what is your pleasure, board members? May I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Hello, board, can you guys hear me?
Motion to approve. Can you hear?
Motion by Mr. Valderes, second by
I'll second that.
Mr. Robinson. All those in favor, please vote yes. Oppositions, vote no. All right, thank you, board members. Our next item is case number.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
before you go into the public hearing, may I just make an announcement to the audience?
Please, go right ahead.
I'm believing that there are a lot of the citizens and business owners that we met with dealing with residential rental registration, residential rental code, residential rental CFO, however we end up with the proposed ordinance amendment or ordinance. We had a very involved meeting on last week. We got a whole lot of information from the industry in reference to their opinion of the ordinances that were being promoted by us. And what we gained from that meeting was that we needed to go back and make some adjustments and make some changes based on the conversations that we've had with these business persons. And in light of that fact, and we did not have an opportunity to get the word out, we removed the residential rental registration ordinance from your agenda today. So if someone is here that's wanting to speak on this item, they may do it in the public comment section at the end of the hearings on cases. Or, I didn't want to utilize or waste any of the citizens' time for something that will not even be addressed today. So I just wanted to share that with them. So if they're inclined to leave, we will be in touch. And if it necessitates, we may have another meeting with the business owners of these rental properties. But I didn't want to waste their time waiting to talk about this ordinance, and it never came up.
All right, Mr. Clark, do we have individuals present that fit into that category?
And please do not be influenced by the fact if it's not on the agenda, there's no action that can be taken in reference to this particular item. It would have to be an agenda item for the board to vote or make any determinations on this item, and it's off of the agenda. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're quite welcome, Mr. Clark. All right, I believe we can proceed now. We're at item number 7, case number 22-175-C. Zoning request, Unity Worship Center, Shreveport, Louisiana. Anyone present to speak to that case?
I just prepared a brief statement. I'm Demetrius Lewis, 9133 Blum Boulevard, Shreveport, Louisiana, on behalf of our church. We believe that we have a motto going forward that we're not a crowd, but we're a community. And when 4340 Greenwood Road came available, we thought it would be a great fit for our church. While other people are leaving the community, we have decided to focus on impacting the communities that we serve. Finding out the previous tenant, which was Mr. Ben Vaughn, he was a former pastor. He facilitated the discussions that were vital to the purchase. This area was chosen pretty much after a 2-year search demographically, and we feel that it's an area in need of a loving presence. The Greenwood Road area has several churches in proximity of the facility, but we didn't want to just be another church, although that's the purpose of the meeting. We wanted to be somewhere where we can implement some community activism, certain food drives, things that we do as far as unity in the community, and things that we do to provide a safe haven for our youth and young adults. Plans are already in place for a ministry to be passionate about underachieving schools and young people, and also to do some more projects in outreach as far as tutorials, after school care, etc., pending the approval on today, as we believe that this location can eventually provide a space for special needs children. Sometimes my wife's passionate about ABA and things like that, and we want this church alone to not just be a church, but we want it to be something that now stands out as a beacon in the community, and allowing this meeting and allowing this opportunity and giving us this opportunity to expand will allow this to happen. We thank you for your opportunity to expand and grow, and again, we are not a crowd, we're a community. Thank you for your time.
All right, Mr. Lewis, before you leave the podium, board members, we're going to give it a shot at using the speaker queue. If you choose to speak, if you'll press request to speak, we'll try our best to get your name up on the queue. Otherwise, we'll invite you to speak loud enough so you can get my attention, and then we'll go. Are there any questions for Mr. Lewis? Well, hearing none, I have just one.
Sure.
Are you the pastor?
Yes, sir.
You kind of mumbled when you first started talking, so I didn't catch that. But Pastor Lewis, we're glad to have you here, and some of us do live out in that area of town, so there's always room for another worship facility.
Yes, sir.
On the paperwork that I have in front of me, it says 2 things. It says place of worship and reception facility. What is your definition of that particular piece of property in terms of being used as a reception?
We were looking at the fact of some of the people that are patrons or constituents of our church to have a place to actually have committee meetings, or if they get married or something, they could use the facility for that. We were kind of more utilizing it for opening for community events and stuff like that. So when we kind of said reception, we were kind of keeping it broad and keeping it open for more community outreach events. So the zoning, when we spoke about it, is what we decided on, so it can kind of give us multi-use of the facility.
All right. Board members, any questions from any of you? All right. Mr. Lewis, thank you so much.
Thank
Is
you.
there anyone else present who'd care to speak in favor of this request? Anyone else present who'd care to speak in favor of this request? Hearing none, is there anyone present who'd care to speak in opposition to this request? Do we have any opposition to this request? Hearing none, seeing no one, board members, what's your pleasure?
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Moss and second by
I'll second that.
Mr. Robinson. All those in favor, please vote yes. Oppositions, vote no. All right, that motion carries. Thank you very much, Pastor Lewis. We'll move on to item number 8, which would be case number 22-2-CAC, City of Shreveport, Forbing Management LLC. Is there anyone present representing perhaps maybe the city?
Yes, I see Mr. Talton here. He's heading to the podium now, sir.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is William Talton. I represent the Office of the City Engineer here in the City of Shreveport. The City of Shreveport's Department of SPAR is wanting to put a park in this area and revitalize it. And as such, we need to close and abandon this alleys. All of the area that's adjacent to it is vacant property. There's no individuals living in this block area. There are some water lines and sewer lines in this alley, which we're going to retain a servitude on until such time as they can be relocated. But we're not looking at putting a building on this. We're looking at this time through SPAR to use it as a park.
All right, Mr. Talton, board members, do you have any questions or discussion items related to this particular case? All right, thank you, Mr. Talton.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else present who'd care to speak in favor of this request? Anyone else care to speak in favor of this request? All right, seeing none, is there anyone present who would care to speak in opposition to this request? Anyone present who'd care to speak in opposition to this request? Hearing none or seeing no one come forward, board members, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I'll motion approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Robinson, second by Mr. Moss. All those in favor, please vote yes. Oppositions, vote no. That motion carries. Thank you very much, board members. This particular time, we'll proceed to item 8, item 9, case, this would be City of Shreveport, case number 22-2-AXM. Anyone present who care to speak to this particular case item? There he is.
Justin Sevier, 1922 Chestnut Park Lane, Shreveport, Louisiana. I am here, we are purchasing this property from Forbing Management, and we are asking that they have it annexed into the city and join this piece of property, which ties into the current Lucian Field Estates. So this will be an expansion of Lucian Field Estates, and we're just asking that that be annexed into the city for connection. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer those.
All right, board members, you heard Mr. Sevier in his presentation. Do we have any questions or concerns relative to this request? All right, Mr. Sevier, thank you very much. Is there anyone else present who care to speak in favor of this request? Anyone else present who care to speak in favor of this request? All right, is there anyone present who'd care to speak in opposition to this request? Is there any opposition to this request? Hearing none, thank you very much. Board members, what's your pleasure? Do I have a
I
motion?
move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Moss. Do I have a second?
A second.
All right. Second by Dr. Tebow.
Mr.
All-
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to let the board know I'm going to vote no on this one because I'm uncertain about the wisdom of annexing more property on the south end of town.
Yes, sir. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote yes. Oppositions, vote no. All right, that motion carries. Thank you very much, board members. This particular time, we'll move to item number 10, case number 22-192-C, special use permit and site plan, Kennedy 5 Management Company, LLC.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Marcus Kennedy, address 1700 Campground Way, Aubrey, Texas, 76227. My plan is to request special use for 1927 North Market Street as a retail automobile dealership. And I'm here to answer any questions pertaining to that.
All right, Mr. Kennedy, board members, you've heard the request. Are there any questions or concerns with this particular applicant?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Robertson?
Thank you for coming, Mr. Kennedy. At our work session earlier this afternoon, we discussed the possibility of a landscape buffer between your property and the adjacent residential apartments. And our staff advised us that due to the topography, that was not a real good idea. Can you speak to what is going to separate your car lot from the adjacent apartments? Physically separated?
So physically separating, if I remember correctly, there is already a fence there, correct?
I believe
Yes,
that's
there is a
correct,
fence. And right now, that is the separation. What were you guys discussing this in terms of being necessary there?
Well, the code has different requirements for commercial property that abuts residential property. And generally speaking, you use a landscape buffer to keep the two land uses separate.
Okay.
In this particular case, the staff determined that that was not going to be a requirement on you because the topography doesn't lend itself to that.
Right.
So I'm bringing it up with you in case you, being more familiar with the property than me,
Right.
of course, might have some comments on that and something that would
Well-
perhaps set my mind at ease, at least on
Right.
how you're going to be a good neighbor.
Right. Well, just to further explain, it is a dealership, but there will be no repairs, not even detailing. It's basically just for display. So it'll just be for retail transactions. So it'll be no noise, no gathering of people, nothing of that nature. It's just for display. And that is the backside. And 9 times out of 10, there will only be like employee parking on the backside. I'm going to display on the front.
I see. Thank you.
Are there any questions from any other board members?
Mr. Jean has
I'm sorry?
Mr. Jean has
Mr. Jean?
So I believe that our staff, Alice Correa, had talked to you about the possibility of installing a fence along. You already have a fence there that's on the property line, but installing a fence more in line with the parking spaces that abut the residential, so that we could further screen that.
Okay.
And that's what the staff had recommended. So we would like to, you present us with a revised site plan showing that and a landscaping plan, just documenting what landscaping you have there. You have quite an extensive amount of landscaping already on site. We want to be able to have full documentation on file of that.
Okay.
And also to enclose the existing dumpster that's there. It's just
Right.
out in the open and to be enclosed. And the site plan would have to be submitted prior to getting any certificates of occupancy. So there's 3 stipulations that
Okay.
the board would be voting on if they're so inclined to approve.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Board members, are there any other questions for Mr. Kennedy at this time? All right, Mr. Kennedy, you aware of the stipulations that Mr. Jean just enumerated? That's great. We always need to get an understanding on the front end of it.
Right.
All right, if there are no questions for Mr. Kennedy, no further questions, thank you very much. Is there anyone else present who care to speak in favor of this request? Anyone else present who care to speak in favor of this request?
I'm in favor.
Please come forward.
Hi, my name is Cindy Eastep. I'm a little shorter, sorry. My name is Cindy Eastep. I am the real estate agent who helped Mr. Kennedy with this property.
State your address, ma'am.
I'm sorry, 9673 Heron Springs Drive, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71106. I'm in favor of the car dealership going at this location, and if you will look at the businesses that are surrounding it, we do have other subsidiary businesses that would be complementary to the use of this. So there is an auto parts store next to it. There is a car wash that is next to that. There is a lube place that is right across the way. And so I see this as nothing but beneficial to the other local businesses, and it would be something that would, well support those businesses and add to the community there as well. I also do see that there is fencing that is installed. There's also what looks to be some sort of water drainage, sort of canal that is separating it. And when you look at the car wash that is 2 doors down, I don't see any extra fencing that they have other than what's already there in existence for the apartment complex. So would question as to, if that was a requirement for him, why that would be so for one and not the other.
That is a question, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Jean, would you care to comment on that, please?
A couple of things is that the other businesses there probably predated the current ordinances. The other thing is when we have a special use permit, the board can put conditions of approval that they feel like would help mitigate any potential impacts to the property to make it more compatible.
Okay.
Okay, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That's all.
All right.
Thank you.
Ms. Eastep, thank you. Is there anyone else present who care to speak in favor of this request? Anyone else present who care to speak in favor? All right, seeing none, is there anyone present who care to speak in opposition to this request? Is there any opposition to this request? All right, hearing none, seeing no one step forward, board members, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I'll motion approval.
Mr. Robinson, motions to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Moss. All those in favor, please vote yes. If you're in opposition, vote no. That motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, applicants. We'll move to item number 11, case number 22-193-C, special use permit and site plan, Timmy Lane, South Park Crossing owner. Is there someone here addressing this particular case?
Good evening, everyone. Timmy Lane, 1528 Grace Street, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71108. I plan to open up a funeral home here in the city of Shreveport. I've been in the funeral industry for many years, helping families deal with most of the tragedies that take place here in our community. Of course, you guys probably know me as the reporter. So I'm out there in the neighborhoods when individuals get killed. I see family members struggle, don't have the funds to put their loved ones in burial places. And so being in the funeral home industry, I was able to help a lot of families throughout Shreveport, be able to donate services to those families to get them laid to rest when they don't have burial policies or insurance policies. And being in the funeral industry, I see a lot of families get mistreated from funeral homes when it comes to the money portion of putting those loved ones to rest. And so I decided to be a change in the community and open my own funeral home and be able to help those families in need, but make sure they get treated first and put their needs and wants first. And that's why I came up with the name of Family First Funeral Home.
Well, all right, Mr. Lane. I believe there's a question from one of my board members. Dr. Tebow, would you care to state your question?
Yes, ma'am.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for your services. I do follow you on Facebook when
Yes,
you're
ma'am.
available. But I do have a couple of questions.
Mhm.
Okay. The very first question, in the discussion, it was stated that you would provide general funeral services.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you clarify or define what that means?
Yes, ma'am. As for general funeral services, that means that I would not do all of the deep stuff like that's embalming. That's like anything with dealing with the physical body that will require special rooms and tools and floods, all of the main stuff. And with that being said, I'm going to leave all those professional services to Mr. Foreman's. That's located on Mansfield Road near Shoppers Value. So he's been in the business for years. We will be paying him to do all of that. Only thing that we would do is operate the services like providing the chapel, the conference room, to come in and select all of the items for the services, and that's it.
Okay, all righty. My second question, so you're the owner, you would be the owner?
Yes,
of the
ma'am.
funeral home? Okay. So do you require a license as a funeral director? I'm a little confused on that aspect. So are you a licensed funeral director, or is that falling up under the other?
No, ma'am. So the way it works is the owner does not have to have license, but your general manager does. And I do have a general manager already that's been in the industry for over 30 years that's going to be running my business.
Okay, so you're going to hire a
Yes, ma'am.
funeral director. Okay. And alrighty, so I want just one last question.
No problem.
Because I really love the concept of this, and I do understand what you're doing. So you're basically just trying to provide a service for those individuals who may be having some challenges with the
Yes,
cost
ma'am.
of the funeral.
Not just through like tragedies throughout the community, but like just people that may pass from natural causes as well. But that was just about me being out in the field, experiencing this and knowing what families go through. That's what made me decide to do this.
Okay, alrighty,
Yes,
thank you.
ma'am.
All right. I saw one mic pull down, Mr. Moss.
Yeah, question. How you doing, Timmy?
How you doing?
All right. Question. So it'll be kind of like a showroom, or kind of like when some, take for instance, if they can't go to, you're not gonna be providing all the services that a regular funeral home would be. So you actually be providing with the caskets and all that kind of stuff, or there'll just be somewhere where they'll just come display and the family can just come to see the deceased. Is that?
No, sir. It's like a real funeral home. Wait, it is a real funeral home. It's just that when you have a funeral home, you have funeral homes that does the embalming, cremations, and all of that
Okay.
at their location, or some of the funeral homes, which in my case, you can use people that does it like Boone or Mr. Foreman. So I'm doing everything except the hard stuff of it.
Okay, so you'll be
Just on the safe side, I want to leave that to the professionals.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm good.
All right, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you.
Mr. Lane, thank you for being here.
Yes, sir.
Not to confuse matters, but I think what you're talking about essentially is viewing, correct?
Yes, sir. But I'm saying like we would actually utilize the chapel for people to come in and have an actual service or like a family hour or stuff like that. But everything else will be done through Mr. Foreman's.
But you will have deceased
Yes, sir.
remains for viewing.
Yes, sir.
Right, I got you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
No problem.
Well, board members, any more questions for Mr. Lane? I personally admire you. It's obvious that you know exactly what you want to do, and certainly the services that it appears that you're aspiring to provide are coming from not just a whim, but something that you've seen happen here in our community, and you want to be a part of helping make it better.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
Well, all right, board members, any more questions for Mr. Lane? Hearing none, thank you very much, sir. Is there anyone else present who care to speak in favor of this request? Anyone else present who care to speak in favor of this request? Thank you, Mr. Lane. Is there anyone present who care to speak in opposition to this request? Anyone present who care to speak in opposition to this request? All right, hearing none, members, what is your pleasure?
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Moss,
Second.
second by Mr. Robertson. All those in favor, please vote yes. Oppositions, vote no. All right, that motion carries. Thank you very much, board members. At this particular time, we'll move to item 12, case number 22-8-CTAC, Code Text Amendment.
Mr. Bailey will be presenting from the podium, sir.
Mr. Adam Bailey.
Yes, Adam Bailey, MPC staff, 505 Travis, Suite 440. These are the remanded code text amendments that went before you in August of 2022. They were actually remanded by City Council on August 28th of that month. Real quickly, I'll talk to you about some current short-term rental statistics. I'll talk about the City Council remand, what we're proposing today. I'll give you some staff conclusions, a timeline moving forward, and then leave you up time for some questions if you have any. When the short-term rental ordinance was adopted in August of 2021, no one knew exactly how many short-term rentals there were. When the ordinance went into effect, we identified approximately 130 that were operating in the Shreveport area. Those numbers come from November 2021. As of yesterday, there are approximately 230 short-term rentals operating in Shreveport. So over 130 have popped up in less than a year. So when the ordinance went into effect, obviously in August, no one was registered. Within the first 6 months, we only had 20 units register. Then we developed our registration program through Rentalscape in August. So 6 months afterwards, we registered 83 properties. To date, we have registered 111 properties. Currently, right now, depending on some of the code text amendments that are in front of you right now, 5 are pending administrative approval. However, if the ordinance does not go into effect, 15 of the applications that are in the queue right now will need a special exception approval by the ZBA. If the ordinance is passed and the code text amendments go through, only 3 of those 15 would be required to get a special exception use approval. Why did the City Council remand the original language? According to Councilman Butcher, he didn't believe it was very business friendly when it came to the distance requirements that we were proposing. And Councilwoman Fuller thought that too much power was given to the executive director when it came to the waiver language in which was in the code text amendment. What are the current regulations that we're trying to move around? Currently, if a new short-term rental application is proposed and any approved short-term rental is operating within 500 feet of the proposed short-term rental, a special exception use approval would be required. So instead of just having one short-term rental and one within 500 feet, the basis behind this language is that only you can have up to 3 operating within 500 feet of each other. If a 4th short-term rental came within that 500-foot buffer, then that 4th one and that 4th one alone would be required to get special exception use approval. And also the waiver language in which Councilwoman Fuller did not like has completely been removed. We also developed some approval standards that would fit into the special exception use process. The timeline moving forward is we would, by the end of the month, send this to City Council, so it would go into implementation in November. Do y'all have any questions?
All right, board members, any questions for Mr. Bailey? Mr. Robertson?
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. You mentioned Councilman Butcher had a concern about language in the draft not being business friendly.
So he thought that the 500 feet originally, that if you had one short-term rental and if one came within 500 feet, he thought that it was too onerous to require that one within the 500 feet each time, because there were several that were popping up within 500 feet of each other. So he asked us to look at ways to which more could possibly, more would not require to go before the ZBA. The one that did go before the ZBA was appealed and went to City Council. I think they asked for language so if neighbors didn't want short-term rentals, that they wouldn't get case after case after case going before City Council, to make it a little more business-friendly in terms that they could be approved on an administrative level, with the exception of going before a board.
So when you use the phrase business friendly, you're referring to the business of short-term rental?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
As I'm sure you know, this is a hot topic all around the country.
Yes.
Are we in the mainstream of cities in enacting this ordinance?
Several municipalities, not necessarily in Louisiana, but we researched several cities that have short-term rental ordinances. The spectrum is wide open. Some don't allow them at all, which generally calls for a black market of short-term rentals that operate. For example, and we had a staff member who brought this up to us. She's from Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach does not allow for short-term rentals because they have a very strong condominium and timeshare market. But if you went on Airbnb, you could still find some that operate. So it would be up to the local municipality to determine whether they wanted to pursue that or not. Actually, this was a hot topic back in the end of 2020. It was City Council that asked us to look at regulations. A lot of that language was coming, or not pressure, I wouldn't say, but the need was actually coming from revenue. In the city's revenue department, as well as the tourism bureau, because it is a business. They do require sometimes of taxes to be withdrawn from it. A lot of the tourism bureau's budget is based on the hotel motel tax, which would be taken out from the short-term rental, over the long term. So we looked at it. Bossier is looking at following a model similar to ours. New Orleans, went through a very long, extensive 2-year program, research program, to try to determine exactly to get the right fit for their city. However, they have 13,000 short-term rentals when we're pushing just about 200.
If I were to ask you if the interested parties are knowledgeable about where we're headed, what would you say?
Interested parties meaning, council, or interested parties meaning, people within the business?
In the community, the residents, the hoteliers, the tourist promoters, the people who want to rent out their houses, any interested parties to this debate?
Within that context, Shreveport is prime for the market for short-term rentals. I think the ordinance that we have written and provided is easy to understand, and it's easy to follow, and it's easy to get approved.
What makes us prime for the short-term rental market?
I think in terms of, from an investment standpoint, you can come in, be able to purchase property, renovate it, and put it on Airbnb to give visitors, I'm not tourists, people coming in from the medical industry, people coming in to visit relatives. I know my family, when they come in from out of state, they get an Airbnb. It's easier for them to do that because they can stay there as opposed to get 2 or 3 hotel rooms. Plus they have the conveniences of a kitchen, a backyard, they bring the pets. I've heard other people within the medical community coming in to visit friends and family kind of do the same thing.
So you don't let your family flop at your shack?
I do not.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Robinson, thank you very much. Are there any other questions for Mr. Bailey as it relates to this code text amendment that's being revised? All right, Mr.
Thank you.
Bailey? Is there any opposition to this at this particular time? Any opposition? Hearing none, board members, what's your pleasure?
Motion approval, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Valderis. All those in favor, please vote yes. Oppositions vote no. All right, that motion carries. According to the agenda I have in front of me, we're at the end of our public hearing, but at the same time, I'm observing that we have several members of our community still present. If you plan on wanting to speak to us today, there will be an opportunity during the public comment section that we have on the agenda, and we'll be down to that in just a few minutes. I believe Mr. Reggie is present. We usually drag you to the last. Would you care to make any comments at this time on the topic that you're assigned to do, please?
Oh, yes, sir. I can let you know, give you an update on the certificates of occupancy that have been issued and also the violation. Year to date, commercial COs from January until today, we have issued 268. From last month's meeting until today, we have issued 11 commercial COs. Home base, year to date, we have issued 278. And for the last month, we have issued 18. So as you can see, home-based businesses have been increasing and been more than commercial businesses ever since COVID. The trend hasn't stopped. As far as violations go, year to date, we have issued 411, and in the past month, we have issued 20.
All right, sir. Board members, any questions for Mr. Reginald?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Robertson?
Mr. Jordan, how we coming on the portable signs?
Well, we haven't had any, really, they pretty much all removed or in court. So that's where we're at with it. I think that the sign companies that were providing those two signs are working on something to where they can get back into the market, but I haven't heard anything from them yet.
They don't give up easy, do they?
No, they won't. Business owners won't either, so.
Right.
All right, Mr. Jordan, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for that. Thank you, Mr. Robertson. Mr. Clark, at this particular time, do you have any comments or staff members relative to bringing us up to speed on issues that you would have us to pay attention to?
Like I said, Mr. Chair, thank you. If you're interested, the notice of public hearings that would be conducted across the state by metropolitan planning organizations to address the planned projects for new review of highway construction priorities in the state are listed, just for your information. It's under the notice of public hearings, and I've asked Shari to send you a link through email so that you can have this information available to you if you're interested in potential for the fiscal year 23-24 highway project construction projects. This is there. We try to provide you with as much information as possible. We will be having NL Clark come and address you. As you know, I don't know if you all have been a part of the NL Clark updates, but periodically Kent Rogers comes to give the MPC board an update of the developments that are occurring within the planning limits. We have some construction that will be occurring on Interstate 20. There's always the discussions about Louisiana 3132, and there's always more and more discussions about I-49 inner city connector I-49 loop it. So, excuse me, it seems to be catching a cold. But Mr. Rogers will come at a later date, and next month we will have, and I never pronounce her names correctly, so I'm just going to say Wendy, from the Commons area, will be coming to give you an update on all of the wonderful things that are happening downtown in the Commons area. We have a whole lot of residential development occurring, some businesses that are opening up. You know, we hear all of the negativity about what's going on around the country and how things are shutting down, but I was talking to some people from Greenwood today, and if you look in Shreveport, we're almost experiencing a boom. It's reflective, and I'm going to ask Stephen to get back involved in presenting the updates to you you have it today? Mm-hmm. Okay, he has that for you today, so you can just see what's happening around the city and the planning area. The city of Shreveport and the planning area never really shut down, never really stopped. There's been constant activity going on, and I think it's something that we need to be extremely proud of. I think you may have asked the question of Mr. Robertson concerning the billboards. If not, we are reviewing our billboard ordinance. As I've said, it will come before you to discuss any plans that will be developed in reference to dealing with billboards that were not properly registered. We get back to that wonderful statement about what is business friendly. Is business friendly removing billboards from commerce that prevents people from advertising and prevents owners from making revenue as a result of them. Business friendly takes on a whole lot of different lives throughout the process, as you well know. But we'll be looking at that. The zoning enforcement section has done a tremendous job. I think they found well over 20 billboards that fit into this category, and they have addresses, and they have pictures of them, and they have probably the owners of the property that they're erected upon. So we'll be looking at recommending something to you. You know, we had the wonderful cap and replace provision in the UDC that has not really merited us, given us much elimination of billboards, and we continue to try to find ways to remove billboards from the interstate and from along Mansfield Road and so forth. But that's coming before you in probably next month. As you notice with the short-term rentals, we've done the same thing with residential rentals. We actually reach out to companies. We have public hearings. We have all type of opportunities. The negativity of all of that is, you know, we have to establish a relationship between us and the local business community, where we have trust between us. I will share with you publicly that this office will do nothing that even implies that we're trying to sneak anything through your board or the city council. Everything that is done will be done open, will be done with the integrity and distinguishedness that we have done, and we plan to continue that process. And if we don't have an ordinance proposal for you next month, we will not present one to you. But I just wanted to share that with you. It sometimes is implied that citizens shouldn't leave because we'll try to sneak and do something, and that's never something that we would do. And I think that's all that I have. I did need to share with you that the state APA conference will be held in New Orleans, November the 9th through the 11th. Generally, this is made available to the executive officers. The executive officers are not interested in going. Board members So I'm just letting you know, if you share those, if there's anyone that's interested in going, we will review the budget. If you'll get with Mr. Andrews, and he'll present it to us, and we'll make all the arrangements for that conference. I have nothing else, Mr. Chair.
All right, Mr. Clark, in reference to the state APA conference, one of the big things that we've always tried to encourage board members to do as it relates to attendance for that is to get the training. And if I remember correctly, several of you have availed yourselves to the training, not only here in Shreveport at the Crime Center a few weeks ago, but some of you went all the way to Lafayette, I think, in the past for that training. And to that end, we appreciate you making sure that you've gotten that under your belt. But if you have some interest, further interest in this conference coming up, please contact me and we'll see what we can do to expedite the opportunity for you to go as it relates to our budget for board training. Are there any other comments? Mr. Clark, I'm going to invite you to repeat once again the comment at the beginning of this meeting as it relates to the two public hearings that you had relating to landlords and or tenant concerns. And I believe there's a possibility that there are some persons in the audience who came in after that was stated early on.
And as I shared with you, Mr. Chair, and the board, sorry, that we thought that we had an ordinance that was ready to be presented to the MPC board for review and possible recommendation to the city council, since it was remanded back to us. When we had a meeting, I think it was 2 weeks ago, with that was open for tenants of rental properties. We had I think 5 tenants that actually showed up, and we had landlords that showed up at that meeting. We listened to, and all we ever wanted to do was listen and hear what the concerns of both tenants and landlords are. And at the next week, we had a meeting with landlords and property owners, management companies, and so forth. And they shared with us a lot of information that we really needed to hear and that we really need to address. And that is why we removed that ordinance from the agenda today, because it was not ready to come before you, because we were not comfortable, nor did we totally support the ordinance as it was written. We're going back and having conversations with the Department of Property Standards of the city of Shreveport. There's a section of the ordinance that deals with minimal standards for residential dwellings that needs to be enforced. We're dealing with the Department of Public Works with permits and inspections. They are the ones that actually inspect multifamily facilities, multi-apartment complexes, and so forth. We're having conversations with other groups that are interested in talking. One of the suggestions was that having a mass group to discuss these things was maybe not the best approach, that some of the management companies and landlords wanted to come and meet personally. So we're in the process of setting up meetings with them for the rest of this month to just sit down with 4, 5, 6 people at a time, just to solicit more information. Once we've taken all of those things, I don't think we will come up with the perfect ordinance. I don't think that any ordinance in the city of Shreveport is the perfect ordinance, but we will have given an opportunity for any person that's interested in sharing information, because they know the industry much better than we do. That was the reality that we had to accept. And one of the things that was a problem was the tenants. It appeared that all of the concerns was about the tenants, and there were some horrible situations that had been presented, but they're sharing with us that there needs to be a two-way street, where if you have a bad tenant, and I don't know if any of you have rental properties, but there's a possibility that you could have a bad tenant, that the landlord should not be punished. So with all of those things, Mr. Chairman, that's why we pulled that information from your agenda today, and we're gonna bring it back to you on next month, hopefully, for your review and hopeful approval.
Mr. Clark, thank you for that. Are there persons present who came with the intent to hear information about tenants and landlords at this particular time? If you are you acknowledging the fact that you heard Mr. Clark say what he did and that you understand? Thank you so much for raising your hand.
I think she wanted to speak.
Still want to speak, yes, please. You
I'm
have the
sorry?
card.
I think she wanted to speak, Mr. Chairman.
All right, then,
In
how
public
many of you
comment.
are here to speak on that particular issue? If you raise your hand. All right, this young lady is ready to come forward.
Mr. Chair.
Please state your name and mailing address. I'm sorry, hold on just a second.
I wanted to advise the board that since Dr. Tebow departed, you guys did lose a quorum, so just be careful not to discuss any matters that may be voted on or to deliberate on anything. You can have informal discussions like this, but just make sure that you do not deliberate on anything that could potentially be voted on in the future.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you.
All right, board members, we understand that?
Got it clear?
Just give me one of those, okay. Ma'am, would you give us your name and mailing address, please?
Yes, hi there, Jane Tappy, P.O. 764 Blanchard, Louisiana. First, based on what Mr. Clark had just said a few moments ago, we are totally against this ordinance. I know we're still working on changing it, but in my, and I'm sure other people's opinions concerning this is not something the MPC should be dealing with at all. It should be going through a whole different avenue. It should be property standards dealing with the bad situations, the horrible properties, the blighted property, and the issues that you already have before you that are obvious and that need to be addressed by a different department and not the MPC before you come and present something that will affect over 38,000 properties, not the whatever the number is for the very obvious problems that we have before us. As we mentioned the other day, and Mr. Clark, a while ago, I'm sorry, and I know we're not supposed to address you personally, but when you said if you're not here to talk about that, we took it off the agenda, so you basically don't have to stay. People who don't know how this worked, they left. So you had 20 to 30 people get up and leave when they came specifically to speak about this issue. So they didn't get that chance to voice their public opinion about this matter. They left. They may or may not can make it back to the next meeting. They may, I don't know. The point being, the what was put before them was, y'all can go ahead and leave. We're going to come back and visit this again. I think inadvertently, or maybe however it happened, people left that should not have left, that should have had a voice to speak right now, right here today concerning this matter. All right, so I'm gonna go back to my notes now because I got all bothered by saying that we're going to not do things underhanded or not things that we shouldn't be done. Let's just see what happens. Let's just see what happens, okay? There were people today that didn't get to speak. We don't want this rental registration problem. You need to go after the bad actors. The city of Shreveport doesn't have enough employees, workers, programs, or anything to deal with just those. Before you add the 38,000, which probably 35,000 of those are good guys. So you're going after the wrong people and wasting too much time, energy, effort, and money to do that. Okay. Some of us have pride in the properties that we rent and that we maintain and that we property manage. Some of us don't. It's those others that you need to be going after. Those that left today, I can't speak for them, but I can speak for them because they were told we're going to readdress this, we're going to look at this again, we're going to rewrite it, and then we're going to all be kumbaya. We're not. We are not. This whole program needs to go and let the problem issues be addressed and taken care of. If that same effort that y'all are putting here to go after the whole bunch of 38,000 plus properties would be focused on the horribleness in the city, For example, the little lady of the 5 that came, she cried. She cried right here. One of your other people that you're after, let's say, put an air conditioner in that lady's home that she'd never even met before. That's the people you're going after. And I'm using those terms because that's what you're doing. You're coming after, you're wanting money from the people who are obeying the laws and doing what they should and offering to help even people they don't even know that don't have air conditioning and things like that. So please, I know it's in the works. Take it out of the works. Send it to property standards or some other department. This should not be before the MPC yet. It's not ready yet. The city is not ready yet for y'all to try to address such a major thing when we can't even keep lights on in the city and things like that. Okay? And I think that is it. But, you know, guys, this is... I've been here way too many times, standing before you guys, before the commission, and all of y'all, knowing how we have to fight these battles. We fought these battles, and somehow we keep circling around, coming at it from a different direction. We don't want to fight this battle from a different direction. Put it back to where it needs to be, or assign it to the correct people it needs to be, which is property standards and or something like that, and just pick a street. Go after that street, and then pick another street and go after that street. Leave us out of the picture, please.
Thank you, Ms. Tappy.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have at this time what some TV shows call open mic time. Do we have anyone else present in the audience who would care to address the MPC board? Well, I tell you what, this is kind of interesting. Are there any other subjects that you have in your mind at this particular time that you've chosen to be present with us this afternoon? All right, board members, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, would a motion for adjournment be appropriate?
Very appropriate.
Second.
MPC hearings are adjourned. Thank you so much, board members.